Have you ever come across the word abomination in the Bible and wondered what it really means? It sounds incredibly strong, doesn't it? Like something utterly disgusting or evil. And you're right, it is a powerful word. But its meaning is more specific and nuanced than you might think. Today, we're going to dive deep into what the Bible means when it uses the word abomination. This isn't just a word study. It's about understanding God's character, His holiness, and what He values. By the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer picture of this often misunderstood concept. So, let's start with the original languages. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew word most often translated as abomination is tuiver. This word doesn't just mean something is gross or unpleasant. It points to something that is ritually or morally impure in a way that is deeply offensive to God's holy nature. Think of it as a spiritual incompatibility. It's an act or an object that cannot exist in the presence of a perfectly holy God. It's like trying to mix oil and water. They fundamentally repel each other. So when the Bible calls something an abomination, it's saying this thing is in direct opposition to God's divine character and order. To get a better handle on this, let's look at the different categories of abominations mentioned in the Old Testament. They generally fall into three main groups: ritual, idolatrous, and ethical abominations. First, let's talk about ritual or cultic abominations. These are often found in books like Leviticus and Deuteronomy, and are tied to the specific laws given to the nation of Israel to set them apart. For example, Leviticus chapter 11 lists certain animals that are considered unclean and an abomination to eat, like pork or shellfish. Now, why were these foods forbidden? It wasn't because they were inherently evil. Instead, these dietary laws served a purpose for that time. They were a constant, daily reminder to the Israelites that they were a people set apart for God. Following these rules was an act of obedience and a way of distinguishing themselves from the surrounding pagan nations who didn't worship Yahweh. These laws pointed toward a deeper spiritual reality of holiness and separation from sin. The second and perhaps most significant category is idolatrous abominations. This is the most frequent use of the word tuiva in the Old Testament. Worshipping any god other than Yahweh, the one true God, was considered the ultimate abomination. This includes making idols, bowing down to them, or participating in the pagan rituals associated with them. Why was this so serious? Because it strikes at the very heart of the covenant relationship between God and His people. The first two of the 10 Commandments are, "You shall have no other gods before me, and you shall not make for yourself a carved image." Idolatry is a betrayal of that core relationship. It's like spiritual adultery. It gives the worship and allegiance that belong only to the Creator to a part of the creation. In Deuteronomy, sacrificing to other gods is repeatedly called an abomination because it pollutes the land and breaks the covenant. The third category is ethical or moral abominations. These are actions that violate God's moral law and harm other people. The book of Proverbs is filled with examples of these. For instance, Proverbs 6 says there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to Him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. Notice what's on this list. It's not about food or rituals, it's about character and behavior. Pride, dishonesty, violence, injustice, these are called abominations because they destroy human relationships and defy the righteous and just character of God. Using dishonest skills in business is another example mentioned in Proverbs. It's cheating and exploiting others, which is a direct contradiction to God's justice. So we have these 3 categories: ritual, idolatrous, and ethical. It's crucial to distinguish between them when we read the Bible. Some people get confused and try to apply all the Old Testament laws, including the ritual ones, directly to Christians today, but this is where the New Testament brings incredible clarity. When Jesus arrives, He fulfills the Old Testament law. He is the ultimate sacrifice, the perfect high priest, and the living embodiment of God's holiness. Because of His life, death, and resurrection, the old system of ritual laws is no longer binding on believers. Remember the story in Acts chapter 10? The Apostle Peter has a vision where a sheet comes down from heaven filled with all sorts of unclean animals. A voice tells him to kill and eat. Peter, a good Jewish man, is shocked. He says, "By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean." But the voice replies, "What God has made clean, do not call common." This vision wasn't just about food. It was a groundbreaking revelation that the ritual barriers between Jews and Gentiles were being torn down in Christ. The things that were once considered ritual abominations, like eating certain foods, were no longer the focus. So does that mean the concept of abomination is gone in the New Testament? Not at all! The focus simply shifts entirely to the idolatrous and ethical categories. The New Testament writers use the Greek word dilugma for abomination, and it carries the same weight of something spiritually disgusting and offensive to God. Paul, in his letter to Titus, talks about people who are detestable or abominable because while they claim to know God, their actions deny him. Their hypocrisy and wicked deeds are the abomination. The book of Revelation also uses this word powerfully. It speaks of the abomination of desolation, a term first used by the prophet Daniel, which refers to a great act of sacrilege and idolatry, and it describes the unclean spirits and the abominations of the earth associated with the corrupt world system that opposes God. Here, the abomination is a complete and total rebellion against God, centered on idolatry and immorality. The focus is squarely on moral and spiritual corruption. So what's the takeaway for us today? First, we need to read the Bible carefully and in context. When we see the word abomination, we should ask, is this referring to a temporary ritual law for ancient Israel, or is it pointing to a timeless moral or spiritual principle? The New Testament makes it clear that through Jesus, the ritual laws have been fulfilled. Our focus now is on what was always at the heart of the matter: our relationship with God and our relationships with others. Second, the concept of abomination reminds us that God is holy. He is not indifferent to how we live. Sin isn't just a mistake. It's an offense against his perfect nature, idolatry, which is putting anything in our life before God, whether it's money, career, relationships, or even our own ego, is still an abomination. It's a betrayal of our Creator. And third, God cares deeply about justice and righteousness. The list from Proverbs 6 is as relevant today as it was thousands of years ago. Haughtiness, lying, injustice, causing division, these are things that God hates because they destroy the fabric of community and reflect a heart that is far from Him. As followers of Jesus, we are called to live lives of integrity, love, and justice. Our actions should reflect the character of the God we serve, not contradict it. Understanding the word abomination helps us see the bigger story of the Bible. It's the story of a holy God who creates a way for an unholy people to be in a relationship with Him. He did this first through the laws and covenants with Israel, which taught them about His holiness. And then He did it perfectly and permanently through the sacrifice of His Son, Jesus. In Christ, we are cleansed not by avoiding certain foods, but by His grace. Our response is to turn away from the true abominations of idolatry and immorality, and to live lives that honor Him. It's a call to holiness, not based on a list of external rules, but on a transformed heart that loves God and loves people. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into a challenging biblical topic. I hope this brought some clarity and encouragement to you. If you found this helpful, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for more content that explores the Bible in depth. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.